Welcome to Short Legal Briefs with Josh Long, where experts in the natural products industry explore the intersection of business, law, and regulations. Tune in for the next 15 minutes to learn about policies and controversies affecting dietary supplement, food, and beverage brands.
Welcome to episode 3 of Short Legal Briefs. I'm Josh Long. The dietary supplement industry in the United States is big business, with more than $55 billion in annual sales. But the Food and Drug Administration says it cannot effectively police the marketplace if it doesn't know about all the products being sold to consumers. That's why the agency is requesting a change in the law to require that all dietary supplement products be listed with FDA. Under this regime, for example, the agency would have access to all product labels, disclosing ingredients and other relevant information that could alert it to potential safety concerns. Joining me to discuss FDA's proposal are two attorneys well-versed in the regulations and law governing dietary supplements. David Spangler, a senior vice president with CHPA, the Consumer Healthcare Products Association, and Scott Bass, a partner with Sidley Austin. Scott is also outside counsel to CHPA, and he helped negotiate DSHEA, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show. Scott, we're going to start with you in the lightning round. You have supported the idea of a mandatory product listing now for a number of years. In short, why is that?
We realized, Josh, that the system wasn't working because industry wasn't playing its role properly. In essence, it was a combination of FDA not having enough money to handle NDIs effectively and the industry deciding it was going its own way without showing the kind of responsibility that the public is due on safety.
Thank you, Scott. David, some critics of a mandatory listing proposal have argued that FDA already has plenty of information at its fingertips, such as NIH's Dietary Supplement Label Database. The agency inspects facilities often. It can request product-specific information during those inspections. And of course, we have something called the World Wide Web. What's your response to that?
They can indeed find a lot of information from the web. There are any number of labels, tens of thousands of labels actually in the NIH database. But the point is it's not authoritative and thorough, and there isn't an enforcement mechanism to it. So we really do support mandatory product listing, and it boils down to really simple reasons. I think it almost boils down to cat in the hat like reasons. If you remember Cat in the Hat, there's thing one, thing two. So thing one, FDA visibility into what's on the market can help them with smarter enforcement. Thing two, simply by having the ability to say that something is misbranded, to have it be a prohibited act if they don't list, gives them a really efficient enforcement mechanism without having to go through a lot of the hurdles that they need to go through today to get a bad product off the market.
Thank you very much, David. Scott, I wanted to ask you about another criticism, which is that some lawyers, some of your colleagues in the industry say the FDA has not vigorously enforced DSHEA over the last 27 years. So if we give them new authority, we give them a big database with tens of thousands of products, why should we expect the agency to change its behavior? What's your response?
Well, my response is that that's the kind of argument that people who don't want to comply make. First of all, even if FDA were to enforce as much as they do now, to David's point, they would know who to enforce against. Instead of wasting time on enforcement against products that aren't hurting people, they would then know of the thousands and thousands of products they have no idea are on the market now. And second, the fact is that FDA would, with legislative authority, get funding for more enforcement. And third, and most important, what that argument misses, is that large purchasers are going to look at this list as critical to taking in product. So you're not going to have large retailers, either online or in box stores or elsewhere, taking in product that's not on there. So it'll be a secondary enforcement means that's not FDA.
Thank you very much, Scott. You kind of threw me for a loop here, David, because I had a specific question in mind, and I'm going to have to rephrase it. You kind of alluded to, this mandatory proposal having a component where if you didn't list, it would be a prohibited act or it'd be a violation of law. At least that's what FDA wants to see. In fact, Kara Welch at the Office of Dietary Supplement Program spoke to that recently. My question is, there are a lot of ingredients, a lot of products on the market that are marketed as dietary supplements, but they're not necessarily, they don't meet the quote definition of a supplement. For example, erectile dysfunction drugs, weight loss products, you get the gist. And let's say those products did not list under this regime. How would that work out in terms of FDA enforcement?
So when FDA finds them or sees them, either because there was an adverse event, someone draws their attention to that product, whatever, for whatever reason, they find a product that's not listed. Now, again, they've got something efficient that they can go after them on for not listing. Yes, they could still go after them as an unapproved new drug. Yes, separate and apart from listing, FDA has certainly opined, a number of organizations and lawyers and stakeholders have opined, maybe FDA ought to have some different authority to go after something that is mislabeled as a supplement. I don't think that's a bad idea. That's separate from listing. But again, I think the easiest, the most efficient way is if they can catch them up on something that, quite frankly, is a pretty bureaucratic but nonetheless efficient way to go after them. They didn't list.
Thanks, David. Scott, you alluded to resources earlier. FDA estimates there's 50,000 to 80,000 dietary supplement products on the market. Let's say this proposal is enacted by Congress and signed by the president, and FDA now has a database with tens of thousands of products. It has to manage this database, and obviously the idea is that it would act in response to information it observes in the database. The Office of Dietary Supplement Programs currently has about 30 full-time employees. Do you believe that the staff needs to be doubled, tripled? Should resources be allocated elsewhere? For example, the Office of Criminal Investigations. What kind of resources are you envisioning that would be paired with a mandatory product listing?
I think there'd have to be a few FTEs added, but this is mostly computer driven. So what you really need is somebody, a couple of people to make sure that that is going in. And then you need people on the enforcement side, compliance side, looking for the kind of trends that David was talking about. So I don't think it's a big lift. The NDI side needs a lot more people, but the mandatory listing is not a big FTE add.
Thank you, Scott. David, it's my understanding your organization and other trade associations are up on Capitol Hill right now talking to lawmakers about this proposal in some fashion. What can you share with the audience about those conversations?
We have indeed met with a number of congressional offices. We hope to see something introduced in the near term. We hope it is broader than simply listing, that it includes some other things that we think are important in updating the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. We won't know till we know. So I don't want to look into my crystal ball because whenever I do, I seem to guess wrong. But yes, we are active. And we are hopeful we will see something introduced in the near term.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the portion of the program where we give our guests an opportunity to make their pitch. David, you can get to go first. You have 2 minutes to give us your 2-minute sales pitch on why a mandatory product listing is a good idea. Leave it there.
Yeah, I think at the outset I already hit on thing one and thing two. I think this makes FDA's job a lot easier because they have visibility into the marketplace. That makes it smarter enforcement, smarter regulation, far more possible. And second, we've got an additional prohibited act that FDA does not have to go through a lot of findings on burden of proof to simply go after someone on. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be other charges, couldn't be other things, but the point is that it's a very efficient means to enforce against with a lot more visibility. And I love Scott Bass's point earlier that this also gives retailers a tool. Is it listed or is it not? And I think then you have some self-regulatory policing going on that I think would be a very helpful thing in the marketplace.
Thank you very much, David. Scott, as I mentioned earlier, you helped negotiate Touché. Pretty much everybody that I know knows who you are. So what are your thoughts finally here?
Well, thanks, Josh. And by the way, I think outstanding questions today. Thank you. Number one, I think this is a win-win-win. and not just a win-win. And what I mean by that is it's a win for industry, it's a win for FDA, and it's a win for the public. The public deserves safety, and FDA, to David's point, needs to enforce in a smart way to get unsafe products. This gives you a full Venn diagram to know where they need to put their resources. Number two, it's a win for industry because it levels the playing field. We hear constant complaints, including in your prior web broadcast, about the fact that products are getting away with murder because FDA doesn't know about them, et cetera. This helps to level the playing field for industry. So if people want to make an investment in good science and good safety research and efficacy research, it at least allows FDA to know who's not doing that. And third, it's a win for FDA because it's really tough to go to all those databases you mentioned and try to figure out what they don't know. And this really makes the visibility simple, clear, and predictable.
Thank you very much to Scott Bass and David Spangler for sharing your perspectives. I'm Josh Long, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of Short Legal Briefs. Take care.